what to do. Okay. Right. So let's begin with step number one for the session. Like in the session, we are planning to show you how to use packages like string R, ggplot, and other things. And similarly, we are going to work with a data set where we have a lot of other information related to online buying. So basically, you are setting up the directory first based on the request that the file that I sent to you, and here you set my file is in this path, and you might have done it already, and nobody's having difficulty in that, which is a very good sign, right? So mostly people will still get stuck in this part where they might just miss the quotes, or else they might miss the double backslashes, but that's really good, looking good from what I have seen in your polls. Now, since I have installed ggplot and Stinger already, so I'm just uploading. It's like loading up the packages that I require for this session, like dplyr and ggplot2 and string R and ggplot. And later, I'm reading the CSV file, and you might have a different name because I loaded a different. I think I just renamed the file, but it doesn't matter. The data is same, the column names are same, and it is getting loaded to shopping. So I write read.csv, and then I give the CSV file name, and later on I just give header is equal true. Or what does it header is equal true means? If the Excel file or the CSV file has the header properly named, then you can just give this one like header is equal true, and it will read the first row as a header, and it will keep it as such. It will understand, okay, so the first row is a header, and I need to take those information from the rows as a column name. Okay, and then you take a look at the structure of the data, and you can do that, and you might have done it already. And later on, this is the task where you're finding difficulty, right? Where the columns that you're supposed to remove from your data frame is given here. And also, I asked you to remove the shopping data frame because you might have very different two data frame which has like more it will take your memory out. Hence, it's better to remove one data frame which is not going to be used in the further exercises. Okay, let's execute one by one from my end as well. I hope things are working. Now, I'm not going to look at the structure of the shopping. I'll just perform this one, right? I'll explain you this code so that you will be able to understand what I'm trying to do. Basically, I take the data frame here, which is existing already, and I'm using a dplyr pipe, and later on I'm using the select command. Select command is used to select column data. And one tricky part here is that I need to remove the data, like the specific columns from this data frame, right? And where if I do not really know the names of the column, I need to look at the structure. Like I can use the structure function, then get the names of the column, or either I can say names shopping, and then in the console you can see the name of every single column, right? And then I can use that one here. So for the ease of the exercise, and then I basically gave everything here. And imagine that if I just gave it like, okay, you remove the row ID and order ID by like a description, it might be really daunting. Like that's how you'll get instructions from the people who want the data analysis to be done, right? My professor normally says like, you do this, subset this particular data from the data frame, and then complete this stuff. Right? Then I need to go and then understand what the name of the thing, and then what kind of variable name that I assign to those columns, and then work with it. Right. So I just looked at the names, and basically I need to remove these names. And this one is the only tricky thing here, right? Minus concatenate. Like I try to combine all the columns and then remove it. Right. This is the way that I negatively either it is called as negative indexing, but in this case it is called as negative subsetting. You subset the entire data frame and then you select only the data frame that you need for your analysis, and hence you just remove row ID, order ID, and for that you need to use negative symbol in front of it, right? Because you can also do the other way. For example, say you can go into the data. For example, say, okay, I don't need row ID, order ID, and also I don't need order date, and then I can basically select the columns, right? By not having the negative index like this: shopping underscore final. For example, say test, and I say shopping. Instead of negative indexing, I can say basically give select. But this is the difficult part, right? So I need to go each and every part and then basically see, okay, the row ID is not required, order ID not required, order date not required, shipping date not required. Maybe shipping mode is required, and then I can give shipping mode. Okay. So I can also do like this, right? But this is a bit difficult for me, right? It's very clear from the instruction that says like remove these things. And when you are asked to remove some particular columns, and I normally suggest you go for negative indexing, right? So go for a negative subset. And why do I use a combine function here? Either you can use negative in each and every column, but that's a bit difficult again. Like I need to give the minus symbol in front of it and then do it. However, it is very easy if I just combine all the columns and then just negatively subset, right? So this is just from the base of R. So it's not from anywhere else. So the basic R is like saying that you can use a concatenate function or a combine function, and then just pull them up together, just remove it. Okay. Okay, there is a question here. Even remote columns are showing in the selection drop down, and that's a bit confusing. Can you share your screen, Arun, at the moment? Because it's a bit difficult for me to understand what's happening behind your screen.
Sure.
Okay, just let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You able to see this thing?
Yeah, everyone is able to see now, please.
Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to select some columns.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Okay, so ship.date is actually removed from the variable shopping underscore final. So when I try and selecting that, it shows an error that it does not exist. That's what I meant actually. That I forgot that it was removed actually, but it was still showing in the drop down.
But it is not
Then I
showing
looked
up
back
now.
at the code and I removed it. But then I had to come back and see okay, it was removed. And I had to select only unremoved columns.
Yeah, but
I wasn't sure if only I was getting it or you also getting it.
I'm not really getting your question here. Since, for example, say you removed all the columns, right?
No, only removed columns which you had mentioned in the question.
Okay.
Like 7 or 8 columns.
Okay.
So I was selecting some other column, let's say segment or say profit or sales. But in the selection drop down, I got ship.date. I forgot that I removed it. And I selected that, and then it showed error. So it's not really a question. I'm just telling it's a bit confusing. Am I
Okay, let me make it clear, right? So, for example, say you had a data frame called shopping earlier, right? Right. Now you basically deselected all the columns that is not required for the analysis, and then you stored that into shopping final. Right. So the shopping final will not have any other information that you removed earlier. It will have only the columns that you selected. Right? But if you go back and then try to select the columns that you removed with this data frame, and it will not get selected.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how it's working, right?
Good.
Yeah. So shipping.date is not there in shopping final.
There, yes.
So that's why it's not getting executed, right? Yes. But if you select the other stuff, and it will it will work basically.
No, what I'm getting confused is this still stored in the variable because
no, it is not stored because you are not storing in any variable. You are just executing it, right? For example, say if you want to select only segment and state, and if you want to store that into a different variable, you need to give a variable name. For example, I'll say test is equal to, or test Okay, let me put in the screen here, right? So test shopping, let's go final, and select, I'll do the ones that you did already.
Sure.
Like you're selecting segment, and then what's that last one? Can you just move the cursor a bit?
Yes.
State,
Segment
right?
state.
Yeah. So now this data frame, like test, will have these two.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. See, because
And can
you
do
are
one more thing?
base one more like
Sure.
let me explain you first, like because
Okay.
basically you are not assigning that to any part. Okay.
Okay.
And if you assign that to one small subset of data frame that will not get assigned, then you can use that one for the other analysis.
Uh,
Okay. Right. Now
so,
I'll go to your question now. Yeah.
so somewhere in the variable are these column names stored because if since it is showing suggestions, are
Mm-hmm.
they not removed or something like that?
I'm not getting you again, please.
Okay, since you mentioned one example as a test data frame where you're selecting only two
Yeah.
columns, let's say
Yeah.
segment and state.
Yeah.
And now you try to select from the test data frame some other column other than test
Mm.
segment and state.
Okay.
You're able to get in the suggestion. What I'm really asking is, are they not being removed from the environment of this R Studio, or that's how this the studio works?
Okay, so that's a good question. Like until now, right? So none of the data frame is removed from the analysis, right? So shopping will
Exactly,
be there, shopping final will be there,
exactly. That's
and
what
test
I
will
mean.
also be there. Okay.
That's what I was
So when
trying
I'm
to get.
so what I do is like I do a kind of small subset of data and work with
Ah,
something,
okay.
and then later I remove it so that I do not mess up with my entire analysis. Right? For example, say I cannot remove shopping final because that is what we are going to deal today. Right? But I don't need shopping data frame.
Exactly.
Right?
We remove shopping
Yeah.
as you're
Why?
talking.
Because no, it's going to be it is like 8 MB data and it has like multiple
Exactly.
columns, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
no, if I don't really need that one, I'll just check it off,
Right.
right? And if your memory is really good, if your RAM is really good, and then I normally advise you to
Right.
keep it. Like I have worked with like 2 GB data sometimes,
Okay.
and
Okay.
like subsetting like 700 to 800 MB file in R. Since my system is capable to work with it, and then it works.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Right.
if I normally feel like what I do for some certain aspects, I normally subset the data frame to small stuff, and then I combine them together, and I keep the combined file of which is of my interest stored in my system, and remove all the other things where I had a kind of a small subsets. For instance, I'll remove test because that is just having two columns, right? And if I perform some mathematical arithmetical computation with these small subsets and then produce a new data frame and then keep it, then I can just save that one, remove the temporary data sets. So that's what I mean here. Okay. Am I clear, right? So you're able to get it?
No, no, yes, I'm clear. Right.
Yeah, good. So now,
And
any
stop
questions
share.
here? Yeah, stop sharing. Yeah. Any questions, guys, here? Okay, so please be, if you have any questions, like even if it is very small, just ask me, right? And that will help me to clarify whatever problems that you're having. No, it's always get it better to get it sorted. Now, move on to the next part, right? So look at the structure of the shopping data frame. Okay, so sorry, I'm just showing the answers. Let me show you the task sheet here. Hmm. Sorry, I did not share the screen. This is a bit tricky with the Zoom stuff where you need to specifically select some screen. And with Skype, it is just like Alt and change, right? Okay. Now, this is a kind of open question to you all, right? Look at the structure of the shopping funnel, and I gave the code in your file as well. And what do you really observe in the data set? Which of the columns are quite tricky to handle, like, and find those columns. And then no, tell me, like open your mic and tell me why do you find it really tricky, and do you think you will be able to handle it or not? Okay, let's go to the chat part. Profit and sales because they have so many levels. Okay, is that the only problem that you find? Like there are so many levels. Yeah, it's I understand it, right? And there is also still more problem in the same columns. You identify the columns completely right, in the sense like you got the answers, um, but there is still more tricky. Yeah, it's a factor, right? But it should not be a factor. Profit has both plus and minus values, and when we do arithmetic operations here, it might be difficult. Okay, that's a very good answer, Arun. And still, like profit can be positive or negative, and that's not a problem. Why? Because for example, say if you're imagine that you're having a restaurant, and during the COVID issues, now your profits will be in loss, like it will be in the negative stuff, right? And hence you can basically get profits in the negative ways, like negative values will always be there. You cannot expect profit to be positive all the time. Okay, so the negative symbols may not really affect your analysis. System will understand that, okay, that's a negative value. R will understand, okay, that's a negative value, and there's another positive value, and it will be able to work with it. And then still more, like I'm expecting one more uh, final information from that. But Swati got it right. But I just want to kind of exactly find why it's a factor, why it is converted as a factor. Okay, let me tell you why. Let's have a look at the structure of the shopping funnel. Yeah. Okay, shopping funnel not found because I did not subset it. Okay. I hope you're able to see my screen, right? So profit is a factor with 16,000 levels, and it is supposed to be numeric, right? It is not supposed to be, sorry, it is not supposed to be a character vector. So at the moment, it is considering that as a character, and then it is grouping them and then putting it as a factor, right? And similarly, the sales is also considered as a factor, right? And why it is considering as a factor? Any clue here? Why do you think it is considering that as a factor? It is because you can see there's a dollar symbol in front of it. Right? When you're having a database, for example, say when people like software engineers work with data, and basically they store the data with the appropriate numbers, like in terms of like whether it is dollar or Indian rupee or like Japanese yen or something, and they basically store in such a way so that the system will understand. Right? However, like you don't need that for analysis, right? At the moment, you are supposed to remove this dollar symbol. And also there is one more tricky part, right? So just go, for example, say if you click um, this part here, right? When you click this, if you go to environment pane and you click this icon, and this will show you the table where you can just have a look at. Okay, it's taking a bit of time, right? You can see there is dollar symbol here. That's the one issue. The other part is like there is a comma separated value. Yeah. Hence, still, so the problem is you have two structures that is going to affect your entire data frame, like entire data set. So you cannot compute any numerical, no, arithmetical computation with this dollar symbol and then the comma value. And what will you do as a programmer, right? I think we have a couple of programmers here, right? What will you do in this case? You're supposed to remove them, right? And there are like in Java or in other language, you might have some sort of ways and means to remove it, right? And we can also do the same thing in R, and that is what we're going to learn at the moment. Okay. Hence, I'm not going to ask you to do this stuff, but I'll show you what I have done, right? And this is the learning curve today, where you're having additional information in terms of like how to work with character data and how to remove some patterns in the character data. And also, there are different ways to do it. Okay, let me go through it one by one. Step number 5, as I told you, there's a problem with the data, and for this, we are going to use the string R package. And why string R package? For example, say there are 3 ways I can handle this problem. Right? So 2 ways that I can handle this problem. One, I can just go with the base R function. The base R function that I want to introduce you today, this is new today, is called G sub. Okay, so since the G sub will basically find a pattern and then can be replaced with some other pattern. It's like substitute function, right? And then you basically give the column name here. So where you are supposed to replace the pattern, right? However, like sometimes I don't really find this intuitive, right? So why? Because for example, say I need to initially tell the pattern and then give the replacing pattern, and later on I give the data variable name, right? But with string R package, there are intuitive commands. For example, say what will you normally say that in English, like if you want to if you want to delete something, so you basically call that as kind of remove, right? And you are trying to remove a structure or some kind of string function. Hence, there is a command called a string remove. Okay, and we are going to have a look at it now, right? So first, let's have a look at how to do it with the gsub command, and then let's have a look at structure remove command. Okay, let me go through it one by one, and later on, like once you're done with it, then you will feel more comfortable in the short using the shorter version of the command. Okay, I'll show it later. Right now in this code, try to focus on this code now. So I'm taking the shopping final data frame and I'm reassigning to shopping final data frame, so that basically working with the same data frame and then trying to now replace the information that is in the row pattern. Okay, and also whenever I want to access the row values, I normally use the filter command. However, in this case, we are substituting some aspects in the row column, sorry, in the rows, right? Hence, I normally use a mutate. Why I do mutate? Because mutate will create a new column, or it can help me with working with the same column and replacing some stuff. Okay, so I mutate sales, where I say you substitute this pattern, right, and replace that with empty, right? When I give just double quotes, and it means empty. Okay, if I just give a comma within the double quotes, and it will replace the dollar symbol with the comma, right? But I don't want the dollar symbol at all, right? And then I'm just stripping it off. Okay, and from where I'm supposed to remove that from the sales column, and that's what I mean here. And it's a similar thing here, where I also find another pattern that is repeating within the column, right? And that is in all the row values have comma. So basically remove comma and replace that with empty string. And then where I'm trying to do it, I do it the sales column. Okay. So I do 2 replacing for 1 column. Okay, because when I look at the column here, and I can see the dollar symbol is getting repeated in all the columns, and similarly I also find the comma in some of the columns. Okay, so basically when you execute this code, this will go through each and every single row and try to find the pattern. If the pattern is there, then it'll replace with this empty string, because I just gave it empty here, just within the double quotes. Okay? And this is another tricky part when it comes to working with some of the symbols, where I am supposed to just give the dollar symbol here, right? But that's not how the computing language works. In the computing language, some of the symbols have some basic ways and means to identify the pattern. Right? Here, whenever you are trying to replace the dollar symbols, you're supposed to give double back slashes in front of it. But I don't do the same thing for the comma, right? Because the computing will automatically understand, okay, that's a comma, and then it will replace. But it will not be able to really detect the dollar symbol. Hence, you normally use a double backslash. Okay. And also, once I'm done with this data is now clean. And since it is it does not really have any dollar symbol, it does not have any comma values, but it is still a character because we are just replacing everything as a character, right? Within the character. Hence, I use another command called as numeric command. And when I force it, as I coerce it, in the language of R, it is called coercing. When I coerce it as a numeric and I store it in the same column, then now the data is completely ready. Okay? I do the similar approach for mutate, for the profit column, and I just replace every single dollar symbol and then the comma and then put it back in. Okay. Did you understand this part? Any questions in this related to this part? No, ask me.
Why did you use double slash before dollar? I just missed that part.
Yeah, see, some of the symbols are basically, R will understand, okay, that's a comma and it will just replace, right? But only for few of the symbols, it cannot really understand, especially for the dollar symbol. And I tried with the same thing yesterday, like, okay, just using the dollar symbol, but R will not understand, okay, I need to remove dollar symbol. And only for the dollar symbol, you need to use double backslashes. Right? And similarly, that might be other stuff. Right? I think when you are working in your in the normal day-to-day stuff, then you'll be able to encounter that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Right. So now let me explain you how this can be made simple. Right. This is one approach to remove remove your structures, let's say the string stuff. But if you go with the string R package, okay, this is the base R approach to work with the data. This is string R approach to work with the data. So when I use string R function, I am just using the same mutate many times. However, and I can go it with my intuition. There are a lot of commands with structure within the string R package. For example, say if I type structure underscore, and I can basically see every single command that is there in string R package. Okay, it has a lot of other functions, and also the package name is mentioned here. So until this one, it is string R package, and later on you don't really have any string R package functions. Okay, and whenever you go to that one, that particular function, it will tell you what kind of things that can be done with this function. However, we are just working with removing, okay, and we will focus on that today. Okay? And maybe one day we'll just work with characters like string data and then try to understand how things work. So at the moment, just focus on this one. And here, I'm trying to remove the structure from sales. Okay, see, it is quite intuitive, right? So I'm not going the other way around. I am having one command. It's also intuitive for me. It says like structure remove. From where I'm supposed to remove? From sales. And what I'm supposed to remove? I just want to remove this one. That's it. So it is quite easy, right? So rather than just like working with no the entire other way of around, like thinking about, okay, so G sub, identifying pattern and replacing pattern, and then giving the column name. Here it is more intuitive for me just to give structure remove and sales, and then just remove this particular symbol over there. And I do that for the other things. Okay, do you find this one easy? Put it in the chat box, maybe yes or no. If you're having any problems, also just let me know. Do you find this one comfortable compared to the G sub function? Yep. Okay. Anyone else? right? Okay, Suganthan is here. Okay, Arun is here. Okay, right. Perfect. Okay, Venkat is here as well. Okay, let me go to even better way of coding, right? So rather than now, I am applying mutate at multiple instances, right? But there is one more way I can also use mutate function. Okay, basically I am working with multiple columns, but I am applying the same function, right? And there is one advanced version of mutate that is called as mutate at. Okay, so mutate also has different um, functions. Okay, if you look at mutate underscore, it has like mutate all, so it takes all the columns, and mutate at specific columns, and mutate each, so it has its own functions, and mutate if something is there, then this one will also work, right? So these are things like one thing that I can say is like you try to access dploy cheat sheet. So there are some cheat sheets available online, and you will be able to understand each and every function over there. Right? It depends upon like the work that you're trying to do, right? So once your work requires those kind of stuff, then just browse to the cheat sheet. You will be able to get it. Now, so what I do with the mutate add function here? With the mutate add function, I select the columns, but the tricky part is that I need to specifically put the columns in the double quotes. Okay, and this is where people normally get messed up, and I did also got messed up yesterday, where I say select. It's like I combine two columns, but I put the column names in the double quotes, and then I apply the function here. When I apply that function to multiple columns, and I'm supposed to have this symbol in front of it, right? This is whenever I use y is equal to x plus when we try to build functions using like linear regression or something, then we use the symbol. It's just like y depends upon no, x or something, and that is quite similar to that. Okay, use the symbol. And do anyone know the name of the symbol? Like I'm not really sure, so it's better to ask someone who knows it.
Tilde.
Tilde. Okay, so tilde, and use this function and basically say you apply this function to these two columns. Okay, and you say structure remove, and this is another tricky part, right? Because you're applying to multiple columns, and you just give a dot. And since once you give the dot, and it'll apply this function to the columns that is selected. Okay, and then it removes it. So now you can see the entire line of code that you wrote earlier, which was like somewhere around 6-7 lines of code, which is getting converted into three single line. Yeah, so not three single line, there's 3 lines basically. And similarly, I approach the same stuff with the comma and also for the numeric. Okay, so now you can see we are applying mutate at multiple instances and then trying to modify the entire structure of the data, right? So now we can really understand the way which the data wrangling really works. Any questions here, guys? I hope you're able to understand the multiple things that I told here. And if you're not really clear about what I said, just let me know. And why don't you give a try with these things? And try to remove. What do you pick? Like whatever you pick, like whether you want to use gsub or whether you want to use structure remove from stringer package, or are you really feeling good about like using mutated? Do you want to give a try with that one? You can also do that.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So for the mutate at,
yeah,
you use string remove, then you used dot comma, and then you used dollar symbol for removing. Why is that dot comma?
Yeah, that's a question. Right? See, in the mutate function works like I select few columns that is required for me, right? And then I apply the function to it. Okay.
Yes.
So whenever I apply the function, I basically declare which column I'm supposed to apply that function. If you look at the line number 67, where I'm just picking one column, that is sales column, and I'm applying the structure remove function over there. However, in this case, I'm picking 2 columns.
Okay.
Right? But in that case, now I cannot really declare which column to be removed. Yeah. So the benefit of mutate add function is that I initially select these two columns.
Yes.
Right? And if I want to apply the function to these two columns, and I just give a dot here, right? Instead of giving sales and profit here, I just basically replace that with a dot. And hence, initially you select the columns using this concatenate function. And later on, you apply the structure move function to these two selected stuff. So this will basically say the dot will represent the selected columns.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So whatever you feel comfortable, try and do it. And this is chat. Okay, also can we do structure move for some of the selected columns? I don't necessarily, yeah, you can. Like if can you be more specific? Maybe can we have your voice? Maybe it might be clear if you explain to me, by talking each other rather than it's like I could not really understand what do you mean here.
No, what I mean is at mutate add, we are selecting a number of columns.
Yeah.
And then we are applying this operation string hyphen remove to dot. So in that case, instead of dot, we can select only, let's say, one or two or like some of the columns where we want to perform the operation.
Okay, so you mean like, can we give instead of the dot, can we give the C of
sales? Yes.
Yeah. I did not really try that one, but when you are trying to work with mutate at, so basically you need to specifically say the columns first. Okay, but if you're doing it separately, for example, say if you're just applying structure remove function separately, then you can do it. But basically what you're trying to do is like you're not accessing a vector, right? But when you're trying to use structure remove function, and either you have one vector or two vectors, and then you can apply that one. But what you're trying to do here is like you are trying to change a column within the data frame. Hence, I use the mutate function. Like when I use the mutate function, and I need to follow the structure of mutate function. Right? And where I specifically select some columns, and then instead of that, those good columns, I just give a dot. But as you said, it can also be done.
Maybe I'll try.
Yeah, but like I would not really recommend to work with the data frame like that. Like if it is a vector, and if you are like only two, like if it is just a vector, and if you want to work with it, and then I would recommend to do that. But it's when you're trying to modify things within the data frame itself, right? Hence, I would normally recommend use mutate and dployer, which is quite intuitive for you to do it. Yeah. So one thing that I want to be very clear is that we are trying to we're not trying to get into the very nitty-gritty of technical things, right? And if you're, for example, if you're not a programmer, right, and you can also understand R, right, and that's the approach we are using here. But as you said, and it can also be done, but I would not recommend to do that, especially for these kind of data frames. Okay. Now, so are you all done with this task? In the sense, did you try to complete the code in your system where you're able to see the changes? And,
yeah.
Okay, good. Let's if you're done, just like put an S here, and then so that I can now move on to the next part. Okay. Okay. Good.
So Bala is like mutate underscore add.
Yeah.
So mostly you're using this function. Like if whether it's one column, usually you're practicing mutate underscore add that function to use it.
Okay, so the basic difference is that if I basically select one column, and I can just use mutate. Okay, so why I use mutate is that I want to do some specific changes in many different columns. right? It is quite similar to a for loop, right? So when you write a for loop,
Okay.
for example, say you say for I in X, that I is the columns that you have selected, right,
Yeah.
of X, but it's quite tricky when you're trying to write that function. Yeah. So the people who developed these this dplyr package has made things simple, right? So with the muted at, it basically performs a for loop,
Mhm.
and it selects two columns that you need for the stuff, and then it applies the function over those two columns.
Okay, so it is basically for loop, and then if you want single, then simply muted
It
function
simply
will work.
use muted function. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so I think everyone is set. Sukhantan, how is it going at your end? Okay. Might be away for a while. Not a problem. So now, okay, just not completed. Perfect, right? Okay, so good to see. So you're able to, like, everyone is able to understand how the structure, based, like working with the character was like a string is now working. Let's move on to that. So because we cleaned the data now, so everything is ready. Let's move on to the next task. Okay, these are intuitive, so you know it already. Just go with it. Just go with it and find answers for it. And I just gave everything in terms of kind of very plain approach and sense. So, okay, imagine that a marketing manager is coming to your desk. I was like, any analyst is coming to your desk, and then he's asking you, like, I just want to find the market which has the highest mean profit. Okay, don't worry about the negative symbol here. Just try to create a mean profit for the market, and then arrange it ascendingly, and also find a suitable graph that will fit the data. Okay, so that's another important thing as a data analyst or as a kind of a data scientist, right? You need to find the appropriate graph for that particular data. Okay, and market is a column, so profit is a column, and try to approach in that way for this step. For the next step, I will not tell you anything. So let me kind of create a poll and then leave it here. And let me go for a small break and then come back. I hope you'll be able to complete that one at the time. Oops, sorry. Okay, let's check the poll. Perfect. So 2 people have completed. One could not. But we have like 5 people in the meeting. So just waiting for the other 2. Should we proceed, or should I wait for a couple of minutes? Okay, so what's the appropriate chart for this one? Like if you have not really got exposed to charts and stuff, not a problem. But intuitively, what do you feel might be suitable for this particular data? Bar chart? Yeah, perfect. Very good. So it's the right answer. Okay. Then let's go to the solutions. Can we go to the solutions? Okay. I consider that as an S, and then I'll just go to the solution. Let's stop the poll and share the results. And probably you might have seen that already. And then stop sharing it. Okay. Now let's go to this part. Okay, so quite simple. It's not really difficult. One thing that you must understand is like you must use a group by function for the market data. You are supposed to get a mean profit, right? So when you are trying to find the highest mean profit based on the market, and use a group by, and then use a summarize function like mean profit is equal to mean of profit. But I forgot the arrange function here, and then you use arrange it because I want that in the ascending order. Then you complete that one. Any questions here? I think I did not execute these things. Maybe. No, this should work. Okay, how many of you got this bar chart? Did everyone got like this? Put it in the chat box, please. Okay. Got one reply. Let's see. Yes, perfect. Venkat got it. It might not be the same color, right? So because you might not have used the color function, right? Because I filled it with market, hence it is there's kind of color onto the graph, right? If you probably you might have done this. So you'll say the ggplot, and then you might end up with sorry. I think my screen, like is my R screen shared to you all? Okay, let me show it here. Okay, so now I think it should be visible, right? So now probably you might have got this chart in the sense you just have a gray background and then it's kind of a dark gray bars, right? And because I filled it with, since I filled the bars with the market and I got the color, right? Let me show you how to do it. So if you really know this ggplot graph functions and stuff, you initially start with the ggplot and you give the data name, and then you define the asterisks, what should come in the x, what should come in the y, and additionally you can also give fill command. You say fill with market, so bars will get filled with market. So the bars that is produced by the chart, like with the x and y, in this bars will get populated with the market data. Okay, And I can also do that with other data, but we are not doing that here, but we can do it later on. Is it possible to use a mean command directly and do this task? Yeah, can do that, not a problem. For example, say I can just take, but the problem is like, yeah, no, yeah. So that's a good question, right? When you try to get a mean for only profit, right? So you'll just end up with one value. Okay, so if you just try and apply this function in your console, right? Let's do it and show it to you. I hope the screen is visible, right? Yeah. And imagine this. Okay. Oh, sorry, profit and caps. Right. So now I get just one value, right? So this is the problem. So if I want to compare across different markets, I need to group it by market. So that's where the grouping function comes in. Okay. So when I do that with dplyr, that's quite easy, right? So if I do that with the base R, it's quite tricky, and then I need to write a lot of code. Hence, I just normally avoid that, and that's why like I'm teaching you dplyr rather than teaching the base of R in terms of using like wrangling with the data. When it comes to wrangling data, dplyr is the best one. Try to use that approach so that it is quite intuitive. Anyone who reads your code will be able to understand what you're trying to do as well. Okay, but when you apply this group by command, now if you look at, for example, say if I print task 1, now I can see I have a tibble. This tibble is a small data frame that's created out of the big data frame, right? And it also acts as tibble also acts as a data frame. Okay, and now you can see there's a market and there's a mean profit created for each and every market here. Okay, let's not worry about what's the number talks about. It's $1 billion sales or something or anything, but just we got some values, then we can plot it. Right. So when I use the fill market, and basically it gives me a very good chart, which is colored, and I can also see some legend here. Okay. Imagine I don't want this legend. Right? If it is annoying me, and I can also switch it off with another function called show.legend is equal to false, which I will also talk about it later, but let's also understand here. Okay, so now this chart do not really have any legend, right? Imagine I also want to add xlab, like the x-axis, y-axis names, and market share for different regions. Okay. Okay, so how many of you think this will work? This code will work? Can someone point out the mistake? There's a mistake here in this xlab command.
Strings?
Yeah, string, perfect. So that's the string, and what you're supposed to do with that? Like basically wrap it in the double quotes, okay?
Yeah.
Good. Nice find. Thanks for your answer. And let's say a while lab. So mean and then you execute it, and then you get a very beautiful visualization, which is required for us, right? And we'll talk about it a bit later and the other things, okay? And now I'm also want to show you one more variation that we can do. For example, say there are different product categories, right, which is available in the market. Did I add that as a task? No. Don't worry about this advanced task. Okay, I'm going to explain you the advanced task, and later on, maybe in the next session, we can work with this as a kind of hands-on. In the advanced task, what I want to say, what I want to do is like, I want to also see how this profit is varying across different categories. Right? I have different product categories, and I want to see whether it is varying across these product categories. Hence, what I'm supposed to do initially is that I want to overlay this category data onto these bars. Okay, so the profit even for each and every category will also be plotted here. No, so you'll have a section of one part here, and another section of category here, another section of category here. Okay, let's do it and see visually. But I'll explain you the dplyr code here. So when you want to overlay another data into the graph, right? Here we just had grouping by market, but when I want to overlay with another data, I should also have that data information, right? So I should also have the data for category. Hence, I create another table which has this market and category data, and which also has the mean profit of across these two things. Okay, and let's print and see task 1. Okay, now we can see it created multiple rows, and you can see market, and for Africa the furniture profit, the mean furniture profit is this, and for office supplies is this, technology is this, and similarly for other regions. Okay, now I am planning to overlay this onto the graph. Okay, how can I do it? And it's quite simple. Initially we used fill to create a kind of colorful stuff, right? So if we basically the fill command is used for this purpose, and I overlay the bar chart with the category data. Okay, and let's do only that and see the results. Okay, I'm gonna and just perform with the fill category just with the bar chart. Now we can see I can see, okay, so each and everything is staked upon each other. This is called a staked bar chart, which is created. Okay, so this summed up basically all the mean profit of each and every category, and then staked it on the top of it. But it is not visually appealing, right? I cannot really compare and see which one is there. And though if the orange is like, okay, the orange is a bit higher, the furniture mean sales of furniture, for the mean profit of furniture is like quite high in Europe compared to the other zones, but it's not quite intuitively appealing, or like it's not readable. Hence, I use another command called as position is equal to position dodge. You can also change the position of the stake bar chart. Okay, this is new learning today. We can work with that similar approach later on. I hope you're okay with that. Okay. Now, if you look at this chart here, right, let me share that one on the screen so that you'll be able to understand how things work. Right. Now this graph is it's pretty useful, right, compared to the other one. Now the comparison is good, and then it is not the mean profits are not really overlaid on each and everything. It is not summed up, and now I get a great visualization. So for the region Europe, the furniture sales is really high, right? And for the office supplies, it's quite high in Europe again. But with technology, the US market is really good. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I did not really catch up with the chat. Okay, so Arun answered it. Thanks, Arun, for helping me out. I hope that. So there's a problem with the screen share, so I just have to share it again. Okay, so any questions here for this in this particular part, like understanding how to work with this stake bar chart and then moving its positions? Do you find the use it? Do you find the use of the chart? That's another important thing, right? Just knowing, okay, I can create visualization is not different, but understanding the meaning behind it, like understanding the need of it, is also really important. Okay. All right. So if there is no question, then I'll move on to the next part. But now it's up to you. So go to step number 7. Don't apply dplyr. So and just avoid that. Just produce a plot to show the relationship between discount and profit. But the tricky part is like you need to identify the suitable plot. I'm not going to give you a clue. Okay, so once you're done, just put a chat, like put a S in the chat box, and that will be really nice. Okay, let me provide you a hint because I think it might be tricky to find not this plot type, but it might be difficult for you to find the function. But I leave it to you for the function. But I'll tell you that you are supposed to produce a scatter plot. Okay, try to use Google and then find the appropriate function within the geomes of ggplot, and then create a plot. Okay, so try to use the browser or something and try to find what kind of function will produce a scatter plot in with ggplot2 package. Okay, so Venkat has actually provided the answer. I think you also got the same, right? So one thing that you are supposed to be sure is that since what data set that you're working with, for example, say in the sense of like whether you're working with the task one, kind of a small data frame that you created, or whether you're just using the entire data frame, like shopping underscore smile. Right? So when you apply this code, for example, say in the R Studio, let me hope this is shared. Which one is shared? Yeah, R Studio is shared. Okay, so let's apply Venkat's code. Right. So if I do that, it might take a bit of time because it reads the entire data frame, which is somewhere around 55,000 rows, like 51,000 rows. Right. So let's get into that. Right. Like I could not really see the graph here, but now it should work. Basically, let's wait for it. It's okay. As usual, there's a problem. Let's start a new session. So this is what happens when you load up with like a lot of information or data into the system. One problem might be like the R studio will get aborted. Okay, so you need to be very careful. Like whenever you're doing something, try to make a copy and say it. Oh, no, keep it ready all the time, right? So try to make 2 copies of your data, and then also have the codes written properly and structured in a nice way so that you don't have to mess up every single time with your normal data set. Okay. And let's go back to, let me do some things that we need. Okay. All right. So now, so there's a little bit of variation that I did compared to what Venkat has done, right? I can just go with geom underscore point at the moment, just like that. Okay. Let me comment this one out. Right. Now you'll get a kind of a graph, which is like a scatter plot. Okay, so can anyone share the screen, like who gets a scatter plot? Because no, it's not working in my system. Okay, so anyone, like Swati came in first. Okay, let me give it to Swati. Let me stop sharing the screen. Swati, you can share now. Bye-bye. Thank you. Right. So So now what you can see is that you can see quite a lot of observations. These data points are, for example, say. Okay. So for example, say each and every data point is a kind of is the point where the x and y meets. Okay. So discount and the profit meets. Now, how like I do not really find a pattern in this graph. Hence, what I want to normally do is that instead of having a geom point, I can also add one more layer to it, right? And what I can do is that let me share this code. Maybe Swati can type that one in her system, right? Try this one in your system, Swati. Just give me a second. Plus geom smooth. Okay. You can start typing in your system, Swati, and then yeah. So yeah, do that, please. Okay. Takes a while, right? So because the data set is so huge, and we have multiple things loaded up in the system, and that happens. Okay.
Okay, it's there.
So now you can see that's like whenever you're trying to give a discount, and it says like basically there's no relationship. However, now this is just applying one part of it does not really gives me a proper meaning, right? And maybe I can also try another set of code where I specifically say method is equal to LM, right? Within the geom function, right? So let me share the code again in the chat box so that she can do. And if her screen crash up, then we can work with someone else's screen, right? So when I specifically say in the geom smooth function, right, where I say method is equal to lm, and now this fits a linear regression line. Let's wait and see whether how things are working. Okay. So what's happening here? So did we get the output, Swati?
I think yes.
Okay. So what you can see.
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. So it looks like a bit different. Maybe let me try in my side as well. Basically, I got a negative relationship because when you give more discounts, your profit should go down, right? That's the pattern now we can see. Okay. So if you look at when the discount is like around 0% and your profits are high, moving from 0 to 8,000, right? But when you are trying to give 80% profit, and basically you're ending up in loss, right? And if you look at the graph specifically, even within Swati's screen, right? And look at yeah, true. Yeah, everyone will get the same graph. Not to worry. Okay, let's have a look at the graph and specifically understand what it is trying to say. Imagine at the point where you're trying to get losses, right? It starts near to like 10%, like when you're giving 8% discount, and your profit is going in the negative phase, right? But before that, when you're just giving 0% discount, there are some people who just like break even stuff, but when they give more discounts and they are actually incurring a lot of loss and they are not making any profit. Okay, so that's what we can really see here. Okay, but I can also, let me see if things work here in my end. Then I can show you another kind of graph. Maybe I'll just have to wait for a while, and then once it is ready, and then I can show it up. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So that's what I want to show. Let me show you. So you can stop sharing. I can show the other screen from my end. Okay, thank you. Right, so I can see a different sort of graph here, right? And this basically says the profit is whenever you give more discounts, and your profit is in loss, right? So instead of using geom point, so what I try to do here is like I basically apply another geom smooth directly. Let me show you that screen as well, like how the code looks like. And also I'll explain you each and every single bit of code here. So one is that I'm trying to take a ggplot on two axes, like a discount and profit. Right? And then I apply geom smooth function where I say method is equal to lm. That is one particular graph, right? And that part of the graph is in blue color. Okay. And also I allow the geom smooth to select its own method and plot that one as well. And for that, I'm assigning the color as red. Okay, and that is given here in this screen here. You can see the color red, where it moves along with the relationship, in the sense that it moves along with the dots that is plotted. Okay, and also let me see if the system is quite slow. So geom underscore point, and let's see how this works. It might take a while because no, it has like huge observations, like 51,000 observations. And so that's why you need to always try to create a subset of data and then create a plot in the that will work. Or else or else try to create a sample from this data set and then try to plot it, and that will be helpful. Okay, so the entire data is getting messed up only when you're trying to add a geom point to it. Okay, and maybe in the next session I'll try to fix that one up. In this session, and I just want to tell you, instead of using geom point, if you just use the geom smooth functions, and you'll get a better graph, and then the visualizations are really good. Okay, and it basically messes up when you're using the very basic scatter plot. Okay, so when you're trying to find relationship between some two variables, and at that point, it is better to use the other function, the new function that we get introduced to is called geom smooth. Okay, just try and use that. Okay, right. I do not really know whether we'll have time for this, the other things, right? And I'll just explain one thing here within this graph. Like trying to apply, or it's like instead of doing that here, I think the data is quite huge, hence I'll do it here, right? As I told you, as I promised you last week, in sense, I just want to remove all these grid lines behind it, and I want a kind of a clean graph, which is quite easy for me to understand, and then which is not having any background information, like it should be plain white in color, right? And for that, we loaded a package called as ggplot. And the ggplot is basically a package which has different themes to it. And if I want to remove the grid lines, and if I want to remove the gray color background, and I can just apply a theme behind it within the ggplot, and I say theme underscore ggplot. Okay. And now let's have a look at the same thing. Okay, sorry. See, now I get a very clear. Okay, I don't know what screen that you're seeing. Let me also go to the plot. Okay, now if you look at this screen now, this is a very clean plot, right? So it does not really have any messy background like gray, and then there's some grid lines, and it's quite meaningful. But still, there is one more problem in sense of having the bars which is raised above on the top of it's not sticking onto the x-axis, right? So in order to do that, and there is another command and which we want to apply, and that is scale y continuous. Okay, and where I just need to say and to specifically say that I just start the scaling from 0 and align it from 0, and just I hope the other screen is shared. Let me share this screen now. Okay, with the same ggplot, the plot that we created, I add one more command to it. So this called scale y continuous, where I try to expand that to 0, 0. And once I apply this one, and then if I look at the plot, that will be a bit different. Okay, let me share the other screen so that you can see it. Yeah. Pretty neat, right? Now you can see everything is aligned perfect onto dot. However, like sometimes I do not really want to see in such a way. I just want to flip this across. Right? Imagine that I want to flip the entire chart. The y-axis should go on the x, and X should come to the Y. And what should I do here? Okay, let me share the new screen. We'll go back to the RStudio, and where I basically can give another command called as coordinate flip. Right? The same graph, and then just execute it. Even more better for me, right? So in terms of like, it helps me to visually produce a, let me share the other screen. Yep, yeah, pleasing. So it's quite easy for me, compare and contrast. And it's pretty good. Looks good for me, right? So within this aesthetics function, so what I introduced you today is like how to add theme to it. So there are a lot of themes, and you try and work with a theme and complete task 7 and 8 this week. Okay, and also try to use coordinate flip and scale y continuous. Don't worry about the axis element, axis.element.x. We'll cover that one later on. And I have like multiple other things. Okay, just give a try and try to use the blog that I mentioned here. Okay, and also try to use the Google and try to come out with your own solutions for this particular thing, right? And that will be the homework. So that we can complete dplyr and ggplot next week. So with these two homeworks part. Okay. Any questions here? Hello.
No, Bala, not yet.
Not really, right? So okay. So let's go to the chat box. All good. Okay. Okay. Good. Fine. Thanks. Okay. Right. So let me complete the session today with a kind of final poll. It's kind of feedback poll, and let me share it to you all. Please respond to it. Are you guys getting the poll? Are you guys able to see the poll? Can you all
Yes.
respond? Yeah, please respond to it.
Very
And,
good.
yeah. Okay, so that I can understand like how far you're progressing and then how far my teaching is as well, so that we can now improve upon it all the time. Yeah, I'm teaching. Yes, but in the sense like I cannot really understand.
No. Your last question, I did not understand. So I
Oh,
would
okay.
like to just
I like the way of
non-teach.
teaching. I should have like mentioned my name over there. Like, that's my bad.
Okay. Yes, you're teaching. It's good.
Okay. Thank you. Perfect. So I got like 3 people responded to it, and then I got like 5 now. Okay, so everything is done. Okay, let me share this poll so that you can view the results. Right. So I think it should be okay. Kind of a mixed feeling with the charts. Don't worry, we will get into that, the nitty-gritty of it. Right? Tell me, like if you have any questions or problems, and always try to shoot me a question in the chat box, or like unmute your mic and then just ask me. So that's the only way that we can learn. Right? And one more thing that I want to emphasize today that I like really missed is that when I want to talk about like geosmooth, I tried to change the color of the line which I plot with the geosmooth function, right? And whenever you want to give the color to that particular line, and you're supposed to put that within the aesthetics function, where you do not really define X and Y, but you're defining the color here, right? And similarly, you can also do that, for example, say within the bar chart. I think last time I messed it up in the sense because we did not really get the color right. You can say within the bar chart, you can see color is equal to blue. And then
Sharing different screen, I think.
I think that's a bad thing with Zoom. I really hate this one now. Like I'm really comfortable with Skype, I hope. Okay, now do you see? Right? Let me go back and then
Yeah.
Yeah, see, in the genome smooth function that I showed you today, so genome smooth function, why do you use it? I didn't really explain that on as well. The genome smooth function is like when you're trying to predict relationship between two variables, and basically you try to establish a kind of linear regression or something. Okay, so let's keep the linear regression away from it. Okay, but for that purpose, like when you want to see a relationship between two variables, and you can use the genome smooth function. Okay, and if you just leave it blank, and it'll normally go with its own assumption, it'll apply a method. But if you just give some specific methods to it, and it'll automatically pick a method. So there are different kind of methods. This is linear regression method. This LM method. And also I have created its own way of graph, like to see how the data points move along, and also the relationship move along with this within the data, right? And I did not really give anything specific to that particular genomes function, but I just want to see it separately in a separate color. So that's why I gave it as a red color here. So whenever you want to give that particular geom as in a color, then you're supposed to give the color function within the aesthetics function. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to apply here. For example, say in the line number 4 with the bar chart, because that's it's easy to do it. And last time we filled the data with the category, and so the bars are colored different ways. But if I just want the entire bar in like in a blue color, and we did not really get any answer for that last week, right? Let's give it a try. Okay. There is some sort of problem here. Let's do that.
I think it's
There's
extra
one
closing bracket.
Yep. True. It's still not working, so it should basically work. Okay, so let's go. No, let's not worry about it. I'll try to maybe I'll try fill blue. So still getting crap, but not to worry. So I'll just figure that one out. But let's keep it like that. So at the moment, like I hope everything is clear in terms of like creating at least a bit of clear. It is okay in terms of creating graphs. And then if everything is all good, and we can next meet next week and try to complete the step 8. Okay, in this part, step 8. And don't worry about this line 92. And then also try to complete step number 9. But try to also omit this part, the facet grid. Okay, maybe I'll upload a new file in your Skype chat and just work with that. Only with step number, no, not with like, everything will be included, but the other things that is not required for the next session will be deleted and then uploaded to you. Okay. So until then, goodbye. I'll have a nice weekend. Let's meet next week.
Bala?
Yeah.
Any plans of starting statistics? A new session on statistics?
That's tomorrow. That's happening tomorrow. Sorry. If you want to be a part of it, like, see, I want to emphasize one more thing here. So it's a kind of a stat at the very basic level. And then it slowly progressed to the level of like linear regression and multiple linear regression, and then logic regression and cluster analysis, and then factor analysis and other things. But if you're aspiring to become a machine learning expert or like kind of a data scientist, okay, that might not be really helpful. But it will give you the basics. Stat machine learning is not without stats. Stat is also stat is required for sure. Right? For example, if you want to understand the prediction model or like kind of test model that you're trying to build, you need stat for sure. Like if you should understand what is F1 score, you should understand what is the confusion matrix and other things. So for that, this stat basics will help you. However, but it starts from the very basic scratch. Since if you do not really know, if you have a zero knowledge on stat, then it's the right place to begin. Okay, so that's the advice that I want to give you before getting into it. Like, if you want to enroll into that part, that will also happen tomorrow, but it will not, since we don't have much of hands-on or demonstrations. It will be a very short lecture, or like 45 minutes to 1 hour. And if you have questions, that the max it can go is like 60 minutes. I don't want to spend more time in explaining much theory in one day. So it will be very short and sweet. So if you're interested, you can also let me know. I can add you into if you're on Facebook, and we can catch up over there. Yeah?
Sure.
Let me share my Facebook ID, because I created a group in Facebook, and I think it should be okay. So Balachan, if you're yeah, so this is my Facebook ID. I think name you can search and find. Okay, and then you can give me a request over there. I'll add you into the group, the start group.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions from anyone else? If not, let's say goodbye. Have a nice day. See you next week.
Bye, Bala.
Bye
Thank you.
bye. No problem. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Goodbye,
You too.
Swati.
Bye.
Welcome. Thank you, Sukantan. Thank you. Bye bye. Okay, let's end the meeting for everyone. Sukantan, are you still online? Hello. Hi. Okay. We disconnected. Stop sharing. End meeting.